There is a magical operation of maximum importance. The initiation of a new aeon. When it becomes necessary to utter a word, the whole planet must be bathed in blood.
Ah, yes. Welcome to Deadhaus Whispers.
Greetings, everyone. I am Calypso, and welcome to Deadhaus Whispers, your platform for all things Deadhaus Sonata related, be it books, movies, video games, TV, music, etc., etc. And as always, I am always joined by my other host, Faceless Mike.
Greetings, hello, and welcome.
Welcome, everyone. And yes, we are Deadhaus Whispers. On Deadhaus Whispers, we talk about everything Deadhaus Sonata related. And that goes for Apocalypse Studios, the guys working on Deadhaus Sonata. If you guys do want to find out everything about Deadhaus Sonata, apart from this podcast, you can check that out with all the links. So deadhoussonata.com to find out your main info. That will lead you to all the social medias. You can follow Deadhaus Sonata on Twitter at Deadhaus Game, on Instagram at Deadhaus Game. We have a Reddit. There's a Discord, all of that jazz.
You can find most of it through the website.
Most of it through the website, deadhoussonata.com.
Pardon Mike, still trying to set up everything and get everything working in the back end because YouTube is not always 110% cooperative.
Yes. And basically on this episode, guys, we're going to go through a rundown of what Deadhaus Sonata is. We've noticed there is a lot of influx from new people coming recently, and they have a lot of questions. So we'd figure this will be your all questions answered episode, and give you the basics of what Deadhaus Sonata is, what it will be, and what the future of Deadhaus Sonata holds for us. Yes. And then while Mike is still setting all that stuff up in the back, I might as well kick this off. So hi everyone. If you don't know what Deadhaus Sonata is, and this is your first time hearing about it, seeing it, and you're asking questions around anywhere or looking up YouTube videos, you'll find me. Deadhaus Sonata is... Now I'm going to need you guys to stick with me on this one for a little bit, okay?
This is going to be a bit of a trek, but we promise the journey's worth it.
Yeah. So what is Deadhaus Sonata, you ask? Deadhaus Sonata is a third-person, free-to-play action-adventure RPG that will have a major focus on narrative storytelling. You can play it single-player or six-player co-op. For now, is going to be the model of this game. Yes, it is free to play. I know that might have been an immediate turn off, and you probably already found something else. Just said, "Oh, fuck that, free to play." What? That's like the evil word of the industry. But don't worry, Deadhaus Sonata will have ethical monetization. What does that mean? Ethical monetization. So cosmetics, basically. Yes. Think of it like Warframe with their monetization and how they do it. Think of it like Destiny 2. Sea of Thieves, Warframe, Destiny 2. I have a bunch of friends playing Destiny 2 right now, and they love it. And the monetization for that is just purely cosmetic. It will be just skins, basically. Just skins, maybe emotes, whatever, stuff like that. Nothing to, really harm your wallet. No pay to win. No Diablo Immortal up in here. Stuff like nothing like that. Nothing like that. So nothing to worry about. So yes, it is free to play. I know that's like a hard thing to kind of accept in this day and age or wrap your head around, and like why, but it is what it is.
A lot of people don't seem to understand the way that goes, but like the vast majority of games, whether people like them or not, are going on the free to play model. Now people have a negative connotation to it because when they hear free to play, they instantly think they're going to be nickeled and dimed in microtransactions, but that's not. This is going to be the way forward. This is going to be the way forward with quite a lot of things. Like you've seen, as Calypso has mentioned, games like Destiny, games like Warframe. It allows for, the best way to example would be if I was playing with Calypso here and we wanted to play a game together. I was like, hey, dude, have you tried Warframe? No, is that any good? Oh, well, it's really great. I really enjoy it. Not, hey, you should try it. It's free. Yeah. No harm, no foul. So it's free entry, and then it's basically you will get what you invest out of it. And as Calypso has said, Dennis has promised a very ethical and transparent business model, which You could trust him on that. It will be based entirely on like cosmetics and like that type of area. There's not going to be any pay to win. He's actually very anti pay to win because a lot of people don't realize Dennis is a big gamer himself. So he doesn't like a good chef. He would not serve you something he would not enjoy himself.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just imagine if you were making a game yourself, dear viewer, or audience, and the game that you're working on. Imagine if you had to like put down $5 to unlock another click of the mouse. You know what I mean? Like, why would you want to put that in your own game if you don't like it yourself? You know what I mean? So there's that way to look at it. The other thing is that it is free to play. So if you only really have to do is when it does release is download it, install it, and then try it out. It's literally, trying it out, playing it before you want to, throw $5 down on some cosmetic thing that you think is cool.
As the
That's
old phrase goes, Calypso, the proof is in the pudding.
Yes. Try before you buy, or as another
Yes.
saying goes. The other thing with Deadhaus Sonata, apart from it being free to play, is that it will be a co-op game, an online co-op game, but you can play single player. You don't have to play with friends, but online friend games is like it's cool like that.
You will be able to play the entire game solo if you wish. That's not the aim of it because it is being designed with multiplayer in mind, but like a lot of people, fun fact, a lot of people play Elder Scrolls Online. Do you know the vast majority of people who play Elder Scrolls Online prefer to play it solo? So there's a whole psychology on that. If you want, you can go watch Josh Shrive Hayes. He's got a whole video where he talks about things like that. You can go watch that and shout out to him because he's an awesome dude if you hadn't heard of him before. But there's a lot of people like to play solo, and you will have that ability. That will be there.
Yeah. So that's part one of what Deadhaus is that it is a free to play action role playing game, multiplayer.
Will I do the spiel?
Single player. I mean, if you want to do the spiel, go ahead.
What is Deadhaus Sonata? Deadhaus Sonata is a free-to-play ARPG where you take on the role of the dead to fight the living.
Yes.
It will be leading on PC and coming to all major platforms. It'll be free-to-play. It's a free-to-play ARPG, which is quite a mouthful for a lot of people to like digest, along with being narrative driven. That's one of the big tent poles to this that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people don't understand what that means. It means story. There's a lot of arguments going on about the Game Awards lately, which I will nicely dodge about narrative, but it is narrative driven. That's one of the big points. That it is the story of Deadhaus. It will be your story of Deadhaus. And that's one of the big themes in this game.
Yeah, there's some really cool systems they're integrating into this with the narrative and how it works out and how it plays out. That was the last time I remember hearing or reading anything. That was a little while ago, so I probably should refresh myself on all of that stuff. But I do know that what you do will have an impact on the game itself, and it will change the narrative subtly around everyone else.
How it's been described in the past is like, to give a simple analogy, to break it down into a very simple form. So if you're an average person, you've probably gone out shopping recently and you've got like some type of club card or something to whatever like supermarket you go to or whatnot. And the supermarket tracks what you buy, not in an insidious purpose, but they want to check stock levels. They want to check what's popular, what's selling, what isn't selling, why it's selling, and all like that. So this is called big data. Your phone is the biggest culprit of this. Your phone tracks absolutely everything you do at all times, right? These things benefit your life a little bit, but you never see the direct benefits. Dennis's idea of he wants to have that within the game, but to work for your benefit in the story. So using big data of the game, where you do, where you go, who you kill, who you don't, who you interact with, what weapons you take, what weapons you don't take, all of these type of things, using this level of big data and actually using it in the story to benefit you. That's an experiment that I'm really looking forward to see, because the man has been known in an industry as an industry leader for quite a few things he's done in the past, Legacy of Kain and Eternal Darkness and all like that. So I'm really excited to see what way they move forward with this.
Yes, and speaking of Legacy of Kain and Eternal Darkness, that brings us to the influences of Deadhaus Sonata.
It's almost like it was a
That
planned segue.
almost. Um, so yes, Legacy of Kain is probably the biggest name in that influence. That this is a spiritual love letter successor to the original Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain, or Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen, depending on however you want to read that title. There is an interesting story behind the title, but we can leave Dennis to tell that story sometime in the
He
future.
might
or
get Dennis on
we
to
might
tell
get
that
Dennis
story.
on to tell that story again. We did have Dennis once before. So yes, Legacy of Kain is the biggest probable influence to Deadhaus Sonata, in that it is a spiritual successor, love letter to that series. And it's you could almost think of this as like Blood Omen 1 or Legacy of Kain Blood Omen like 3.0, I suppose.
As it was described before, this is where Dennis would have went with Blood Omen if he had been given free reign. This is the kind of direction the story would have gone. Only obviously it's changed a bit because the man has learned quite a lot and had a lot more influence over the time since that game came out. Because I don't want to tell you, but it's old. The anniversary was a little while ago, and I'm starting to feel my age a little, because a lot of people are like, I remember playing that as a kid. It's like, I remember going into a video game store and buying that legally. Being of age. But this is kind of that direction. So there's a lot of people with the Legacy of Kain community. We want more Legacy of Kain. And it's like, well, you're getting it. It's not called Legacy of Kain, but like you like the story, you like the world. This is it.
Yep, something like it. The other thing is that yes, video games are influential, but there's also literary, music, books. I know we've talked about some of this on the podcast before, but there is a whole lot of Lovecraft in there. There's
a whole lot of Lovecraftian.
There's a whole lot of Lovecraftian lore within this. There is some Hellraiser thrown in for good measure.
To be fair, a lot of Clive Barker is Lovecraftian too.
Also true. Yeah. See, it just all comes back to that one guy.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because Dennis isn't here, he's got a big influence with things like Malazan, Book of the Fallen.
Which I've been reading. I'm still getting through the first book. It's a journey. It is a journey of a book.
And philosophical horror, like what was it? Songs of Ed Dreamer and Grimstride, which I'm chewing through at the moment. They're really good. It's bizarre though. Like this whole like philosophical horror. It's a weird. It's really difficult to describe.
It's very different. Yeah. And how did Apocalypse Studios start? It started, I want to say it started from Dennis, just wanting to start another studio and get Deadhaus Sonata off the ground and work on everything. I know that he was going through a couple of studios. He did Quantum QE2, I believe, was the previous studio before Apocalypse, and that kind of just merged into turning into Apocalypse. And yes, obviously you can go to Apocalypse Studios. Apocalypse.333.com specifically to get the whole story behind where did Apocalypse Studios come from. I know Dennis in recent interviews has talked about it. We've had him on the podcast before. But what Apocalypse means is that it means to reveal the unknown, or to reveal the unknown, rather than world ending cataclysmic doom.
Yeah, people have it that it's the end of the world, but it's actually revelation, like the revelation of an unknown truth. The actual ancient Greek version of it and all, that's it. It's funny. Dennis brings this up a lot, and I don't think many people listen to him because that's the whole point. So.
Yeah,
because like one of the pillar stones to Apocalypse Studios is they want to bring that missing voice that has been lost in the gaming industry, where it's been about narrative. Now, granted, yes, there are narrative games, but not done in the way that Dennis has historically done it, and quite a lot of other people used to do in the past. That has kind of got muddled in this online action shooty sandbox type stuff. It's not as prevalent now as it used to be, because games years ago, we remember like characters from our childhood and some of our favorite games and our favorite stories and all, but nowadays like what are you gonna do, like get a Fortnite skin?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's kind of a testament to old game design and how like just having limited resources, and you had to
being creative
to really get stuff out there and to make a good story, you know, and a lot of subtext, a lot of subtle storytelling within like a grander narrative. I think that's going to be Deadhouse, because yes, it is an online game, but there is a lot of it is a big focus on narrative. That is a thing. There is a lot of lore that's already been put into this.
There has been so much. My hands are tied at the moment, but there is a lot. I can
Yeah, it's
attest there is a
to
lot.
bring
Actually, you
to
can go check out the website, even just the
yeah, you
radio
can, yeah, and
dramas.
then there's yep. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to the radio dramas.
Hmm.
There is, oh, gosh, what is it? Well, I mean, I guess Warframe. Warframe is another thing where there is narrative in Warframe, and
Hmm.
I'm sure you can find YouTube videos where it's like the entire story of Warframe in like a movie form or
Actually,
whatever.
not even one. It needs to be multiple because there is so many in Warframe. Like they're way further on. You have to get like past the
Ah,
start.
ah.
But there's like a main narrative, and there's so many splinter stories off, which are all their own unique, amazing tales.
And it's I want to say should would Elden Ring be a good example of like Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Dark Souls? Would that be a good example of like similar storytelling style a little bit, not all of it, but a little bit to like Deadhouse, do you think?
Yes and no. Okay,
Yes.
so like you will. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. So, okay. Dead House will have a narrative. Yes, there will be story. Yes, you will get quests from quest givers. There will be a whole thing. Will you understand it? I don't know. We hope you will. It's a case of it's very much in the Elden Ring Soulsborne thing where like the story is bigger than the world. It's like it's a grand tale. So that's the way they want to go with this. Like you can even hear from the radio dramas, like when Alaric is talking about the Empire. We already know there's issues going on with the Empire and Deadhouse and all. So this straight away makes it bigger than most other games. Most other games, it's like you are the chosen one and you must go and kill the thing, you know. But these other ones, like a lot of the Souls games and all, the story is bigger than you. In Deadhouse, it will be a vast tale that encompasses the whole world. Because even in the description of it, like there are 6 gods with 9 houses. Deadhouse is one of these houses, and it
Mhm.
is the story of Deadhouse. So when we get into the story of what Deadhouse is and all like that, it'll be a lot bigger. Now, the reason I say that is I wouldn't say it's exactly like the Souls games, even though I'm a massive fan of them. Elden Ring is singularly one of my favorite. It has become, I didn't expect it to, but it has become one of my favorite games. A lot of it's done through lore interpretation from items and environmental storytelling. So you will go into an area, you will see things, and then you can kind of figure out what happened from that. And then you'll interact with a boss, and the boss will just like start blurting out narrative like while you're fighting, and you can kind of piece things together yourself, and you can work out how this world works and all like that. No, Deadhouse, you will have quest givers. There will be story. It is very much like in Elden Ring, in Dark Souls, in Bloodborne, you have to try figure out the story. In Deadhouse, you have the story and the game's not even out yet. Like you can listen to the radio plays and it's giving you history. There is
Yeah.
already history on what way things are going, what is happening, how it is, and to make it easier for anyone that even wants to do any lore dives on it, all the start of the radio plays have a date and timestamp. Like, you know, it is the year whatever, 213 after Deadhouse, you know, is the 13th of Parat. It'll tell you the day and the month and the year. So it will be very easy to put this together.
Yeah. Yeah. There is it'll be fun to it'll be fun to see all the other lore videos and stuff for Deadhouse eventually, you know?
I'm dying to hear people's lore interpretations of Deadhouse
Yeah.
after they've played it. So when we get into, let's say, the first age and the second age and third age and things happen, I want to see the YouTube videos of people saying, I think this, and I believe he done that, and this is happening, and all like that. And can you believe this happened to the world? You know, I want to hear those lore interpretations. I've been
Yeah.
dying for those.
Yeah. And that brings us to we'll come back to classes in a second.
Hmm.
The world of Malorum is not Earth. It's not
Yes.
Earth. It has its own history and its own story to tell. So yeah, it's gonna be there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot to like dig into and a lot to absorb. You know, it's going to be one of those, wow, there's a lot of lore for an online game, you know. Like I would compare it to like eventually I want to say it will have so much lore. It will be Elder Scrolls length lore.
I could see that.
You know, and like it's kind of like playing Elder Scrolls Online, where it's not an MMO, but like Elder Scrolls Online has a crap ton of lore, and that's just from the preceding Elder Scrolls games. Plus everything that's in Elder Scrolls Online that's canon, that's going to eventually end up being in Elder Scrolls 6, or at least little fractions of it that they're going to, you know, probably throw Easter eggs and nods to whatever the lore is for Elder Scrolls Online, right? Deadhaus is going to be all of that, just it's self-contained into itself. Self-contained. It's going to be self-contained into the world of Deadhaus Sonata, unless in the future it spans off into like actual fully narrative single-player games like Legacy of Kain and stuff like that. But for now, it's online.
The fun part is, you see, there's quite a lore to a lot of them, but I don't think people realize, unless they've looked into it, because I've looked into a lot of it now. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've been a fan of the Elder Scrolls since Daggerfall. There is a massive amount of lore to those games in history. Warframe even itself is getting close. So I could see Deadhaus go in that direction, considering it's very lore and narrative driven. But like Warframe has quite a bit of lore to it. It's just most people don't bother to dig into it. Like I've comics based on Warframe.
Yeah.
The Witcher and stuff
comics,
like that.
art books,
There's a
all
very deep world that's going on. It's just a lot of people don't engage with it. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's a lot of people going to be hating each other. You don't have to engage in lore if you don't want to. No one here is going to be a snob about those things. There are people that love obsessing and getting into it. There's other people that just love the action part of the game, going and kill things and be a monster and all like that. That's cool. It's all accepting on that. That's what we want to do. And to keep in mind there, going back to this, yes, Malorum is its own world. So any analogies with Earth are literally just analogies. They will have their own stars and constellations, their own days and months, and things will not always. It won't be exactly like Earth, and these are all going to be planned out to be different for their own specific reasons.
Yeah. And that brings us to, what should we talk about now? Gameplay. I guess let's talk about the gameplay. So, I mean, and that brings us to like, okay, so we blabbed about, oh, it's Thanksgiving, by the way, gobble gobble. We blabbed about narrative and everything enough, well, at least for now. So let's talk about the gameplay and what the gameplay is. I said earlier, this is an action RPG. Yes, it's an action RPG. Third person ARPG. I would like to see a first-person mode in the future as a mod. I'll probably end up doing it myself.
Sounds like a suggestion for the forums.
Yep. But however, this is a third-person action RPG. Again, throw it back to Warframe. Think about it like Warframe. Think about it like
Elden Ring,
like The Witcher, etc., all those things that are action RPG like. Emergent storytelling through gameplay choices. That goes back to the lore aspect, where it's like if you and your buddies raid a dungeon, and it's a high profile dungeon, and you guys like on whatever the list of the server is that you guys were the best who raided that dungeon, then maybe you and your friends will be the ones lore wise to be the ones canonically who have raided that dungeon. You know?
I'm still looking forward to the idea that when you go and sack a town, they'll remember you sacked the town.
Yeah.
They're not going to be as nice the next time.
It'll be cool. And like in 10 years from now, or in like a year after you guys sack that town, it will be a story that will be in the narrative. Oh, there was a town sacking by this raid of villagers, and it was your guys' raid. Blah blah blah. It all feeds into each other, right? Gosh, everything just comes back to narrative. And then that goes
My
into
actions will have consequences. Yes, they will.
Yes. And that goes into, because it's an action RPG, there's actually a tarot card system that's incredibly complex.
Okay, I'll break it down nice and simple, or he'll try anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I've noticed when Dennis first announced this, because this game has been in development for a while, I had seen very few games do this, right? I'm seeing more and more now, which means people are paying attention to what Dennis has been doing. But the idea is, so normal games, you have skills or abilities, and then you will have what would be basically classed as a talent tree. I'm going to use World of Warcraft as an analogy for this one. You pick your class, and then as you get skill points and level up, you will have talents. You spend talents in your talent tree. In Deadhaus, this will be done differently. Instead of you having a talent tree, each skill will have a talent tree. The skills will be represented by a tarot card. So instead of learning the skill, for example, one from the demo, exsanguinate, which will be a way of draining blood, you will get the card exsanguinate. Now, instead of having different talents and abilities that might benefit this, the exsanguinate card itself will have its own skills and talents that you will level up and choose and decide. And then you can swap exsanguinate out for a different card. Each class will have a different amount of cards that they can hold at any one time for skills and abilities. And this will then proliferate onto weapons and things like that. They will be handled a bit differently, but the idea is there. So that's how the tarot card system goes. So instead of learning skills and abilities and having talents, you get tarot cards and you level your tarot cards.
Yeah, your skill tree has a skill tree, I think, is the other way to.
Yeah, instead of you having a
explain it.
talent tree, your skills have a talent tree. Your skill
Yeah,
tree.
yeah, and it's like I know an example is like you have the ability, or like you have the would it be what skill or abilities, whatever, what's a better word? I guess you have the ability exsanguinate, which allows you to draw blood, right?
Yes.
And then that branches off. You have the ability that branches off into other skills that enhance it. But then, like maybe one, I'll use this one. Maybe this one enhances you to draw blood at a longer distance. That might even branch off into another one that allows that to change up a little bit with modifiers or whatever. So it just never ends, and there's a bajillion
so maybe
possibilities.
you've exsanguinate, and then you have to make a choice when you get your first talent on it that you have to choose that you can drain more blood, or you can drain blood and mana, or you can drain blood and essence, which leads us right into the trinary archetype system, which would be a good way to explain that. So a lot of games you're familiar with, which will have health pool and magic, right? This is common known. In Deadhaus, we're going differently. Everything exists in 3 states. There is vitality, blood, magic, which is like a type of, if you imagine the magical realm, the spiritual realm, ghosts, things like that. This is blue. And then you've essence, which would be like soul energy, like the nether realm, right? So you've these 3 things. Each of the classes, bar the vampire, because the vampire has to be, the awkward fence-sitting middle ground of everything. He's right in the middle of the trinary system. But if you take a look at the website, you'll see each of the classes sit on a particular area where they lean more one way or the other in regards to the trinary. They might be more physical, more magical, more essential. And that's how it goes. And they will all have access to these 3 health pools, health/ability pools, because you will spend these resources as well as take damage in them. So example, you're a vampire, someone hits you with a sword, you lose vitality. You drain blood, you get back blood, which is vitality. But then let's say a priest comes along and casts a spell on you. It mightn't hurt you physically, but now your magic has gone down. It will hurt you in the magical realm, and then you'll need to drain to be able to restore that. And then there's also, if anyone has seen the demo you've seen, you can actually switch between these as well. You can exist in the physical realm, the spiritual realm, and the essential realm. So you get to change up between these, and these will have impacts on the world as well. That's it. You go to Arena Yellowstone, in there you kill human knights and they drop skill Fireball. Replace human knight and Fireball with any other type of, and all Fireball with all other skills, abilities, and Tarot's knights. Rather confusing, Tim, but thank you.
Yeah. Don't worry. I will go into I will break all this up into big, nice chunks that are easy to digest later on in either from this video specifically, or I'll work on another one for my YouTube channel. You guys can follow me on YouTube. Just type in anything Deadhaus Sonata related and you'll find me. Or Legacy of Kain, maybe those videos are getting confused.
Or if you just, all you need to do is go on to his Twitter and you'll find him there.
Yes, you'll find me there. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that might sound a little complicated now, but trust me, it's not that difficult to understand or wrap your head around with a little bit of explanation or a little bit more fine-tuning explanation. But that's for the action RPG stuff. That's the skill system. That's the health system. It's, or the states rather. It's not typically health, but it is health, but it's not health. And then that leads us into our classes. With our gameplay comes our classes, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This is my favorite.
7 of them. Yes, and there is a lot
to begin with. There is 7. Deadhaus has 7. Keep in mind, as this game grows and gets older, we will be introducing new houses, which will have new classes.
And you can think of all of these classes as a typical archetype in another game. That's the most basic way to explain it. But of course, with the tarot cards and the states and all those other systems in play, they aren't that basic. But to just get your guys' heads wrapped around all of this,
this is the beginner's guide.
This is the beginner's guide. Yeah, thank you. Think of them as your basic classes in other games. So the vampire is the first class. That's the all-rounder, jack of all trades. You know, he's good at health, magic, and essence, or I guess I'll call it stamina for now, just to make things a little easier. So health, magic, stamina. The vampire is pretty good at all that kind of stuff.
That kind of gets confusing though, because stamina, because you spend stamina in souls.
That's right.
This is kind of a different kind of realm to that. So easy way to go through this, right? So we've got our classes. Now keep in mind, one of the first things that we should have mentioned in the gameplay side, you're monsters in this game. Right?
Yes,
keep that in mind.
You play the undead fighting the living. That's the whole.
These aren't like this romantic, like oh, sweeper off her feet. But no, the vampires are monsters. Everything in this game is a monster. That's the whole thing, right? So keep that in mind. So at the start, we've got vampire. So if your little notes here is like vampire, what is it? The vampire, bestial creature that feeds on the lifeblood of the living. So when we take a look at it, if you listen to the radio plays, they give a beautiful little one. So for each one of these, you can go to the radio play and listen to the corresponding radio play for the class. That'll give you a lore flavor for what each one of them is. So the vampire is more, let's go like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, where they were romanticized. This is bestial, monster, powerful. This is a predator of humans. This falls into the middle of the trinary, as Calypso said, master of all things. He is able to dabble a bit with blood, dabble a bit with magic, dabble a bit with essence, right? He falls into the middle of the trinary and has quite the ego about it. So we have, what is it? He is the main monster. He was once human, or some of them speculate was human. We'll be learning more about this because we have so much to learn about the world of Deadhaus. What is the lore? You can take a listen to the radio play, but these are hunters of humans. These prey on humans as their primary thing. So that's what they do. These are like the bestial creatures that prey on humans. They're very powerful. They're usually very old, because you very rarely get to see young fledgling vampires. You will in the game as part of Deadhaus, but from a lore perspective, you don't they will be well seasoned and experienced by the time you see them out. They're usually quite older, more experienced and worldly by the time they come out of that. And then how does it play? This will be your standard characters. So if you play most RPGs and you pick standard knight, who has access to a little bit of magic, a little bit of this, access to the heavy weapons and all like that, that is how this guy will play. It will be the human-shaped character, although he will be able to shapeshift. That's one of the big things to the vampire. He's going to be able to take on different forms. He will have a vampire form, a vampire bat form. I said vampire form, of course. He has a vampire bat form, like this big werebat, which you can see in the demo. There's a video on YouTube. It looks awesome. I've heard rumors of a werewolf form and Dracolich form too.
Possibly, I do not know. However, we did see the bat form, which is the bat form is in the demo currently. There is a current demo right now. I do not know if it's still accessible on Steam. No sexy vampires romancing humans. Vampires need to drink bloods of humans to live. Correct. There is a demo right now on Steam. You might have seen some gameplay
I
from
think
it on YouTube.
that was
I don't know if
open
the
at the
demo
minute.
is-
So
it was
previous backers who had it were able to play it, and then there was a time when it was open to everyone to try out. That is now gone because maybe there might be other things happening later down the line, which I'm really looking forward to. I'd really like to see where that goes, but for the minute, it's being closed while everything gets fixed because we're still early in development. You know.
Yeah, so that's an easy look at the vampire. The other one is the Revenant. Think of that one as your basic tank. If it's huge, it's big, it's a hulking monster, it's a tank.
I love his lore video one.
Yeah,
Or,
no, I like it
audio
too.
play.
Yeah. Then you have the Lich. That's your wizard archetype, your mage archetype. To run it down to the basics of that. Now, then we kind of. Then we have your Wraith, which I want to say is the closest thing to a rogue or a stealth
could see
character, possibly. Well, there's not much information on the Wraith yet, but that's just a speculative look. I think it's going to be like a rogue style stealth character because it is technically a ghost and it can phase in and out between realms. Why not? Then things get a little bit more complicated with the Banshee, the Ghoul, and the White are your rounding out classes. You could think of the Banshee again as kind of maybe a hybrid character with magic and other things. I want to say magic. Like, see, that's where it just gets complicated because, like,
I've got my descriptions, but I'm just letting you flounder a little.
With Deadhaus, it's the trinary system and the tarot cards. You know, don't make this as run of the mill an RPG as everybody.
It is not black and white in Deadhaus.
Yeah,
because the way as it was just put there, like when you look at the trinary system that Calypso is describing, we have the physical, the spiritual, and the essential. When the abilities for each of these are used, that means like a vampire could be a stealth class, a vampire can be a spellcaster, a vampire can be a tank, and a vampire can be a healer. So you are not locked out. So the traditional ideas behind it no longer exist. It's down to the kind of character you want to play.
Yes.
That being said, they do play to their strengths a little. So like as we go back, the Revenant, tank. Big meat mountain, massive maul. Look at the pictures of the Gaztak. It tells you everything. One came up to a village. They wouldn't let him in. He literally threw a hammer and smashed everything to pieces. And then within, 10 minutes, he completely decimated the garrison. Like it was literally meat pie. He literally smashed heads like meat pie was the description of it. So like these guys lean more towards the physical, as in the physical realm. So they rely on blood. They take physical damage. You can sit and chant all day. You're probably not going to do him much harm. The Lich is exactly what a Lich is. You think of Liches from other games, dial it up to 11. Yeah. This is a mage, a necromancer, a really experienced wizard who has gone beyond the realms of all human knowledge and with magic transcended death. He has destroyed the veil and stepped beyond it into death, where he will exist in perpetuity. He uses very powerful magic and can use that in many different ways, not just in spell casting. Think about how liches work in other games. They'll be able to puppeteer. They will be able to manipulate. They will be able to control. They're also able to drain the life essences of people. They'll be able to like just walk and like float past them, because they don't even need their bodies anymore. Their body is just so they tangibly exist in one spot, but they can cast off that body and go into another one. Like that's just the way they are. They'd be floating through a village and just literally draining the life essence out of everything it floats past. So there's your lich. You've got your
Tem said Wraith assassin for the Wraith, so that probably is a better.
I could see it there. He's like, trying to tank on a lich will most likely be extremely hard. Would require a super weird build, rare odd gear choices, possibly. But we'll have to see how that works out, because that'll be really interesting. It will most likely be impossible to pull off. Improbable, I don't think impossible, because I like the way that this game is being designed, where like a lot of these choices will be there if you know how to look, as I think Dennis put it in another game. The Wraith is the eternally tormented soul of someone who is racked from their body. Think of it as a Cenobite in spiritual form. It's literally a floating ghost.
Yeah.
Rattly chains, absolute torment, and they're basically if you listen to the audio drama for this one, they're kind of like the assassins of Deadhaus, because like nothing can stop a Wraith. Like physically nothing can stop a Wraith. It'll just float through the walls. Like unless you've super powerful magical charms or that weird alchemical fire that Alaric was playing with, and that just delayed it and got rid of it. Like that didn't kill it. That just pissed it off and moved it away. Like it'll still come back, you know. So the Wraith, if you think about it in that sense, so you can tell they lean more on the essential side. Right? Tem said it would be super fun to find gear and try and make it work. A fun example. Oh yes. A good example, tanking as a shaman. I've seen it done. Now, the Banshee, this is quite interesting. So the Banshee are like the heralds in Deadhaus. When you read the lore, if you read the Necro and you listen to their radio drama, it's like they aren't really dead because they were never alive. These are otherworldly beings who interpret the universe differently and can hear beyond the veil. They see beyond the veil. They're the heralds of the greater gods. So the herald, particularly of the god of Deadhaus. And Alaric had a little run-in with one, and without divulging too much about his powers, she pretty much ate the other dude. From what I gather, did she eviscerate him or eat him? He was just screams. Screams.
We will never know.
And you got to know, it can't be a Banshee without some type of wail or cry. Like, you know, this is a given. Now, on to the Ghoul. The Ghoul is the unsuspecting one, which I think a lot of people don't realize. I can see the Ghoul as well as being a tank. Ghouls can take massive amount of punishment. The Ghoul is... The only way you could describe the Ghoul is look at the art. Look at the character art. It is a bipedal or quadrupedal, depending on what mood you're in. Teeth.
That one I see the Ghoul as, if not the assassin character, if the Wraith is the assassin archetype, I see the Ghoul as definitely a stealth archetype, or
it can be stealthy, but they don't need to be
stealthy. They don't need to be, but
they can be, but they don't need to be. So for example, in the lore, one was sneaking into the graveyard because he was hungry and he was eating the dead. He didn't have to sneak in, because even when they attacked him, they get decimated. Like he will wreck everyone. They have massive claws, massive teeth. It's a ghoul. It's literally a ghoul. So the way they're described is kind of on the Wendigo side of things. So it's like constant hunger, the elongated limbs, the massive teeth, and all like that. Now think of the more modern interpretation. That's wrong. Like the old original, you know, the analogy for emaciation, of hunger, of deprivation. These are the things. So that's what a ghoul is. What it is in the lore, again, listen to the radio play. It's a fantastic one. The ghouls feature prominently in Alaric's season 2 radio plays.
Yes,
which
probably my favorite character so far.
I love that ghoul. He's so amazing. using. And how does it play? Well, that I'm really looking forward to see as well, because I'm not too sure. But yeah, they will be tanky, but as Calypso has said here, they will also be able to be stealthy. I think there will be a lot of stealth options in regard to the ghoul, because they give me the feeling of like walking on walls or roofs or something, that they'll be able to like climb around Spider-Man their way through things.
Yeah, that's what I was
being
thinking.
detected.
That's what I was thinking. There was a couple of years ago, I say 10 years ago now, Dead Space 2 had an online mode, and the online mode, it was asymmetrical, and you could play as, the mutated alien necromorphs, or, the human soldiers, right? And all the mutated alien necromorphs, some of them could crawl along the walls and be stealthy and attack from up high, and like very they were tanky, and they could shoot tendrils or whatever, but like they could be stealthy. And
you're saying that, I'm just thinking AVP. Remember AVP?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, AVP. Of course. Yeah. Stuff like that. Like the ghoul with just
literally ran up the wall, just runs up a wall onto the roof.
From its artwork, I definitely see the ghoul being a kind of tanky stealth sort of character.
And then the white. Build a monster.
That might be build a monster. I definitely think this is going to be the build a bear of a character. They are primarily strong in like essence, I believe, if I remember the diagram correctly. However, they are a Frankensteinian style character. So that means, much like the vampire is a jack of all trades, I think the white is going to be another jack of all trades style character, and you can literally customize it how you want to.
That's what I see, Calypso, is that the white is the same, but on the other end of the spectrum. So the two sides of the coin, shall we say. Yeah. Whereas the vampire is more elegant, these would be more direct.
Yes.
More plain, which is funny because they're more philosophical and they're a little bit more deep when you listen to like the way they're described in the lore. They're very aware that the fact that they are multiple type of like things.
Yeah.
They're
think the monster from Frankenstein, guys. Yeah.
What
Adam, I believe. Yeah.
And they're created and can be physically in different forms. So like, we see different variations of ones, of larger, heavy set ones with like, as it's described, that they can be built in different fashions. And then we'd seen concept art ages ago. Do you remember of like a really thin one?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the creepiest one. That's so
like
scary.
Slender Man looking yoke. So like that could be like a stealth type.
Good nightmares. So I'm having nightmares already. God.
So like,
your work is so good.
This is something that can go into many different directions, and it's something I'm highly interested in. So if anyone's new to this and you're wondering about this, and any one of these sounds in particularly good to you, you should go and listen to all the radio plays anyway. Especially like season 1 is really short, so you'll bang them out in a little while. Season 2 is amazing, little longer, bit of time investment, but trust me, well worth it for the story. But if you wanted to just know, I want to know about the vampire, there is a vampire one, or there is a wraith one, and all, so you can listen to each of these.
That brings us on to our final-ish like main topic here, and that is the lore. And we've talked about it a little bit, but like the lore is a big thing with Deadhaus. This is something that Dennis has always kind of been into, and there's a lot of lore in Blood Omen, which is spun off into the Soulweaver series. But again, because this is a spiritual sequel and love letter to Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, there is a depth of lore to explore. And you can start with the radio dramas as a sort of easier way into this world. I've been listening to the radio dramas. I'm surprised, actually, they're a thing. The radio dramas for the Callisto Protocol, the Dead Space 4 that we're finally getting by Sledgehammer Studios or whatever, and it's Callisto Protocol. It's a spiritual successor to Dead Space, but there is some radio dramas there, and they're really good. Deadhaus Sonata has really good radio dramas. They're very short. They given you an introduction to what Deadhaus Sonata is, story-wise, lore-wise, through the eyes of Alaric von Beller. And then that will lead you into, getting on the forums and checking out the lore stuff there, as well as reading the little lore dump books, the Necro Liberitas, or
That is one of
from the
my
website.
favorites because in the Necro, if you go read it, it actually gives incredible amounts of detail to the world and what's in it. It is written by multiple authors. There's different bits from different peoples in it. There's bits from the Gaztak, there's bits from Zoran, there's bits from Tozy, and all of this. So if you're a Vati video type, an amateur armchair Vati video, there's a lot of story in there to be interpreted, particularly Seven Suns and Twilight being one of my favorite. If you go and read that, come back. I would love to have a lore discussion with you. It is very, very interesting. That's actually how quite a lot of us in the community got to know each other well, was through massive lore discussions based on the Necro.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing. Like that's the, like, this is where I think all of the Warframe fans and even Elden Ring and stuff, like with how they do their narrative and just how lore heavy those games are, I think you guys would like Deadhaus, you know, whenever it comes out. I think it'll be your cup of tea. And obviously Legacy of Kain fans, I think will like it also, not just because it's a spiritual successor to Legacy of Kain, but because of the lore, because that's a huge part of Legacy of Kain. Yeah. Plus, it's a lot of people stuff. So who doesn't love that?
A lot of people are unsure about it because, as you said earlier, when they hear free to play, they instantly turn off. But like I said, any Legacy of Kain fans that they switch off when they hear that, wait and give it a chance. You will see. Like, you don't need to take my word for it. You don't need to listen to me. You don't even need to look at the website. You should. You will thank me later for it when you do, if you get invested into this lore and all. But when the game comes out, it's free to play. Give it a try. You're literally losing nothing. Give it a little shot, and I promise you, this is what you've been looking for. Take it from someone who has spent their entire life as a massive Blood Omen fan, who loved the world that was created by Dennis and team at the time. I have become really invested into this. I promise that'll be the way you go as well. If you don't, take it up with me. I'd love to hear it in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. It would be really interesting to hear why I'm wrong. I'd love to like pick apart, because feedback's always a great thing as well. Because the team even love hearing about like what people like to see change. It's something that I think has gotten lost with a lot of people. Now, Dennis is very transparent. He loves to be very transparent. He's very community focused and community driven. This team started off and was very open with the way the game was developing, probably more so than they should have been, because I can see a lot of backlash that has happened over it, because people are impatient. They don't understand how long a development cycle takes for a game, especially a game of this magnitude, and then the hiccups and road bumps along the way that end up, that cause delays and make things move further and all like that. And people are kind of impatient with that. And I understand, because they've been lied to. Most people have been lied to their whole life whenever it comes to games, especially in the modern age of gaming. They're like, hey, check out the beta. That's not the beta. The game's like 6 weeks out from release. Like, so they've been lied to, and that has set them up with unreal expectations of how the game process works. But Dennis has tried his best to be very open. He's been very active with the community, and they take feedback with stuff. And there's been a lot of polls and voting, and I don't know how many people remember or not, but if you don't, I can tell you there has been a lot of things in the game already that were completely influenced by the community directly. When you go to fight a Legionnaire, the community voted how he looked. There was like many different types, and there was long polls and discussions, and the community picked the type, and that's the guy you're fighting in the game. One example is, like, I'm looking at the background, the Calypso's thing there. There's a clock tower. There was a load of buildings picked and decided, and there was a clock tower picked, and you will be at that clock tower in the game. That will be a main thing that'll be in the game. There was a load of different ones. I'm trying to remember them all off the top of my head, but there's been a lot of community voting, and you will see more of this going forward, because they love having community input and feeling that the people that want to invest in the game, not financially, emotionally, and with their time that they want to invest in playing this game, Dennis and crew would like them to feel like they're leaving their imprint on the game just as much as the people developing it. And I think a lot of people take that for granted.
Definitely. I think that's like that's it's hard to to ask someone who hasn't been with this project since like the beginning or been a fan or whatever to like, believe in it right off the bat, which is why it's actually a great thing that it is free to play, because you don't have to spend any money whatsoever. And that brings us to
that should tell you how much faith Dennis and the team have in it. They know you will like it and that you will end up investing in it. That's why they know the free-to-play model is good, because there's no barrier to entry and they're that confident in the game that it's like, yeah, it's free to play.
Exactly. And that, like, there is other streams to watch. Just literally type in Deadhaus Sonata. You'll come up with the official channel. You can watch all of those, all the past streams they have. You can watch like, the lore videos. I put out some stuff about it. Just a bit.
You need to update those. Those are outdated.
I do. I definitely do. Yeah. There's a bunch of past streams you guys can watch. There is information out there, though it is a little bit outdated and old. It gives you a good idea of what the plans are for the future, and that brings us to the actual future of what is to come and what we all think is going to happen and what blah blah blah. I personally think next year.
I love it.
I personally think next year is going to be the year for Deadhaus Sonata. I think, like, games usually have this where it's like, oh, hey, guys, we announced this game 2 years ago or 3 years ago. There's going to be something in like year 3 or 4, unless a game just doesn't get announced 2 or 3 years ago, they'll announce it when it's close to release, because that's usually how game development goes. Bringing it back to like Calypso Protocol, I think
you normally don't hear about a game during its like first 2 years of development.
No.
That's what I think is funny. It's like when people are going on like about the Elder Scrolls or about the new Grand Theft Auto, they're like, are they even making one? Of course they're making one.
Yeah, of course
it's just going to take a while because they're absolutely massive games.
Yeah. So like, I definitely think next year is the year for Deadhaus. I think we'll just get more stuff. Yeah, I think we'll just get more stuff. I think that's basically it,
He sits here knowing but not saying anything.
Exactly. I mean, that there's another question of like, what would you guys want to see going forward? Like, what's everybody excited for? But like, if you're new to this whole thing, then I guess just the game itself would be something to be excited for.
If you're new to this, what are your impressions? Because a lot of us cannot give an accurate impression of being new to this, as we've been with the project for quite a while. As someone that's new to this, what do you see? What do you like? What do you see that you don't like that you think maybe should be changed? Or have you any questions about this? Because a lot of this stream and this video is in response to, I've seen some people that came to the project new, who've just discovered the Discord. I don't know how they like maybe happened upon one of Calypso's videos or one of our videos, or they've seen something on Twitter, whatever route they took, they ended up at the Discord. It's like, I'm really interested in this. Where do I start? It's like, here.
Yeah.
Because it can be very intimidating.
This can be your introduction. And then feel free to dive deeper if you want, That's the thing I like about video games, that you don't have to do anything. Like, if you want to know about Deadhaus, cool, here you go. And then there's a bunch of other resources out there, but that goes for like any game, I know the Witcher 3 was everyone's favorite and a lot of people's first Witcher game, and then they go back and play the other ones, or they go and read the books, or they go and watch the Netflix series, which has basically been canceled now because Henry Cavill left. But yeah, so it's like you can dive deeper into something if you want to, but you don't have to, But
the other side,
I encourage you to dive deeper into Deadhaus Sonata.
And the other side as well, if you see this and you want to discuss it, hop into the Deadhaus Discord and tag one of us in any of the channels that you want to discuss. So if you want to discuss vampires, myself and Calypso are open to discussing all the classes. I know some people are a little bit more niche. They're like, oh, I'm just team Banshee, or I'm team this. I'm team everything. I'm vampire first and foremost, but I am team everything. And I will quite happily discuss and debate like lore and gameplay and everything with you. So if you see this and you want to do it, jump into the Discord, hit us up. We'll happily go on with the discussion.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, Discord. Discord's your friend. Discord. Everyone there is nice. Everyone there's friendly. Discord is your friend.
And onto that, before we wrap up Calypso, I would just wanted to point out, because some may or may not know about this, anyone that has been keen-eyed, us at Deadhaus Whispers have been expanding on the social medias.
Yes, we have a Twitter now.
And an Instagram.
And an Instagram.
And as you see, the YouTube has been expanded, and we have been graced with having a YouTube tag. So if you go to YouTube and just look up at Deadhaus Whispers, we show up.
Are we actually the only Deadhaus? Did really no one steal that?
I was shocked, and that's why I wanted to get those across all.
Let's do this. YouTube.com.
At Deadhaus Whispers.
At Deadhaus Whispers. Hey, there we are. Look at that. That is cool. I'm so mad someone stole Calypso already. Oh well. But yeah, no, we are. That's really cool. Yeah,
you go get at the Necro Libertas and see them try spell that correctly.
Yeah, exactly. They'll never get it right.
But yeah, we've got all these on our socials, so you'll be able to keep an eye on us on Twitter, because we'll be using that to keep up to date on what our live stuff is. And then as we get closer to have more stuff in relation to the lore, in relation to the game, in relation to in-game stuff, and even some of the stuff from the demo that me and Calypso still have access to. We'll be taking screenshots. We'll be posting stuff there for the Instagram for anyone to take a look. So that's how we're going to be using their social media. Instagram is going to be some fun pictures, and Twitter is going to be just keeping up to date on information on things. So when we're going to be streaming, we're going to be trying to be here far more often. And we will try to see, could we get in the odd Sanguine Sunday as well as we're going along, which is kind of more generic, basically anything in the darker side of the gaming sphere. Whereas Deadhaus Whispers, when we do it on Thursday, is very much Deadhaus dedicated. Sanguine Sunday will be a little bit more generic and all like that, which is something I'd love to do. I'd love to have one of the ones where we have a Sanguine Sunday and grab Dennis or George or someone and get them to talk off topic about what they enjoy to play. So these are all things we've got coming up, because we'll be getting Dennis back again soon. I'm not going to say when, I'm not going to say how, but we'll be getting Dennis back, and maybe some few more guests after a bit. So that'll be the fun one to keep an eye on.
But with all of that, I think it's just time we should wrap up.
Yep.
So yes, we hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. You can follow all of us at social media. You can follow Deadhaus Sonata at deadhaussonata.com. You can follow Deadhaus Sonata at Deadhaus Game on Twitter and Instagram. There's also a Reddit. You can follow me, Calypso, at Necro Libriatus. You can just search up anything Deadhaus Sonata related. And I'm also on YouTube, Faceless Mike on Twitch, YouTube, and the Instagram and the Twitter at the Faceless Mike. I
couldn't use Faceless Mike. It always has to be the Faceless Mike, because apparently Faceless Mike is some dude who plays guitar in a rock band in LA. So I had to go with the Faceless Mike.
Well, the Faceless Mike sounds way more fancier. It sounds fancier. It sounds more official.
Elegant.
Elegant. Yes. So yes, follow all of us on the social medias. Check out Deadhaus Sonata, guys. We hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Deadhaus Whispers, kind of a recap. We've thrown this around on the Discord for anybody who has questions. And we will see you guys in the next one. Yes.
See ya.